Good day to doctor and my friends. I am Chen Yujie. Now I will be sharing a case study that focuses on why legal knowledge is important in entrepreneurship and business. In today's business world, entrepreneurs deal with many legal rules such as contracts, consumers protection and franchise regulations. If they don't understand these rules properly, they can easily face problems like financial loss, legal disputes, or even end their business. For example, some business owners may sign agreements that are not fair, or they may fail to protect their business ideas. So these mistakes can be very costly. In Malaysia, we often see issues like contract disputes, intellectual property problems, and franchise related violations. That is why basic legal knowledge is very important for everyone, especially entrepreneur, and this is not only limit to legal professionals. The case we are discussing is MUNAFYA SDN BHD versus PROFQUAZ SDN BHD, which was decided by the High Court of Malaya. This case involves a franchise system called CIC, which is related to early childhood education. In this situation, Munafia paid 35,000 ringgit to PROFQUAZ after signing an agreement to use the system. However, they later discovered that the franchise was not properly registered under the Franchise Act 1998. Because of this issue, Munafia decided to cancel the agreement and request the fund. This case is very interesting because it shows that the court does not just only rely on what an agreement is called. Instead, it looks like what the agreement actually is in practice, and it also highlights the importance of making sure franchise businesses are legally registered before they start operating.
Good day, Doctor and everyone. My name is Lam Hui. Today, I will present the case breakdown of MUNAFYA SDN BHD versus PROFQUAZ SDN BHD. This case involved a franchise agreement between MUNAFYA SDN BHD and PROFQUAZ SDN BHD regarding the operation of an Islamic preschool franchise known as Children Islamic Central or CIC. MUNAFYA paid 35,000 ringgit Malaysia to obtain the franchise license and join the business. The PROFQUAZ SDN BHD operated the Children Islamic Central preschool franchise and offer license to interested business operator. MUNAFYA entered into an agreement and paid 35,000 ringgit Malaysia to join the franchise. However, after making the payment, MUNAFYA discovered that the CIC franchise had not been registered with the Registrar of Franchise as required under the Franchise Act 1998. Because the franchise was not registered, MUNAFYA became concerned about the legality of the arrangement and requested a refund of the 35,000 ringgit Malaysia. The plaintiff argued that the franchise license should not have been offered or sold before registration was completed. On the other hand, PROQUA refused to return the money and argued that the registration process was already underway. The defendant also claimed that MUNAFYA have terminated the agreement permanently. The main issue in the case was whether the franchise agreement was legal valid and enforceable when the franchise has not yet been registered. The court also had to determine whether MUNAFYA SDN BHD was entitled to recover the 35,000 ringgit Malaysia that had been paid to PROQUAZ SDN BHD. That's all from me. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Yong Ting Wei, and today I will be walking you through section 3 of our case analysis, the legal issue in MUNAFYA SDN BHD and PROFQUAZ SDN BHD. Before we look at who won or lost, we first need to understand what were the actual legal questions the court had to answer. In this case, the court had to look at several interconnected legal issues. This issue did not arise in isolation. They come from the overlap between two important pieces of Malaysian law, the Franchise Act 1998 and the General Principle of Contract Law. The first issue was whether PROFQUAZ as a franchisor had broken a mandatory legal duty, specifically by offering and selling a franchise that not yet unregistered under the Franchise Act 1998 at the time of the transaction. The second issue was whether the unregistered franchise agreement was even valid and enforceable, or whether it was simply void from the very beginning due to illegality. The third issue was whether MUNAFYA decision to end the agreement was lawful, and whether as a franchisee they were entitled to walk away and ask for their money back. The fourth issue was whether PROFQUAZ defense that they were still in the process of registering when MUNAFYA terminated could legally defeat the claim for a refund. And fifth and the final issue was whether MUNAFYA was entitled to get back the full, which is 35k ringgit Malaysia that they had paid under an agreement that turned out to be unforceable. Now, to understand how the court approached these questions, we need to look at two main acts that are directly relevant to this case. The first is the Franchise Act 1998, Act 590, specifically Section 6(1). The provision clearly stated that no person is allowed to carry on a franchise business unless the franchise has been properly registered with the Register of Franchises. This is the primary legal base for the court finding that PROFQUAZ act unlawfully. The key question under this act was simple. Was the CIC franchise registered before any offer or sales was made? The answer, as we know, was not. The second is the Contract Act 1950, Act 136, specifically Section 66. The section provides that if a person has received any benefit or advantage under a void or unforceable agreement, they are obligated to return it or compensate the other party. This is direct legal base for the court ordering PROFQUAZ to refund MUNAFYA about 35k ringgit Malaysia because the franchise agreement was rendered void by the Franchise Act violation. MUNAFYA had to right to cover what they had paid. Together, these two act from the legal foundation of the entire case. The Franchise Act tells us the transaction was unlawful. The Contract Act tells us that the money must be returned. These issues are critically important, not just for the two parties in this dispute, but for the entire franchise industry in Malaysia. They go to very core of the mandatory pre-market compli- compliance duty placed on every franchisor under Malaysian law. Thank you. That's all for me.
Hi, good evening. My name is NEILSON, and today I'll explain about the court decision and reasoning. For this case, MUNAFYA SDN BHD versus PROFQUAZ SDN BHD. In this case, the High Court decided in favor of the plaintiff, which is the MUNAFYA SDN BHD. The court said the plaintiff had the rights to cancel the contract and also get the money back, which is 35,000 ringgit from the defendant. The main reason for this decision is because the defendant did not follow the law. Under the Franchise Act 1998, a business must be registered their franchise before they offer or sell it to others. This is very clear and important rules. In this case, the defendant offered a franchise called Children Islamic Center, or we can call it as a CIC. Without registering it first, the defendant said that they were still in the process of registering, but the court did not accept this. The court said clearly that in the process is not enough. The registration must be completed first. The court also explained that the law is to protect people who want to buy a franchise. If the franchise is not registered, it may not be safe or legal, and this can cause financial loss. For example, if someone buys a franchise that is not approved, they may later be forced to close the business or cannot run it legally. This is risky. In this case, the plaintiff already paid Rm 35,000 ringgit, so they face this risk. Another example is a startup company that sells franchise licenses too early. If the business is later not approved, all the buyers will lose money. Because of this, the court decided that the contract was not valid, so the plaintiff had the rights to cancel the contract and get the money back. This case also shows two important ideas. The first one is business must follow the law, which is called as statutory compliance. Second, the law protects buyers. which is consumer protection. In conclusion, this case shows that following the law is very important in business. If a company does not follow the rules, it can lead to serious problem and financial loss. Thank you. That's all for me.
Good day, Doctor. My name is SUZHEN. Now I will present Part 5.1, which is the impact of the cost decision on entrepreneurs and business in the case of MUNAFYA SDN BHD v. PROFQUAZ SDN BHD 2021. Firstly, this case highlights the importance of legal compliances for entrepreneurs and business owners. The core rule that a franchise must be properly registered before it can be offered for sales. In this case, the franchisor failed to comply with the registration requirements under the Franchise Act 1998. As a result, the agreement was found to be unenforceable. This serves as an important reminder that business must comply with all legal requirements before entering into agreements. Failure to do so may lead to legal disputes, financial loss, and damage to the company's reputations. Secondly, the decision improves transparency and trust within the franchise industry. Franchise often invest significant amount of money based on the franchisor's promise and business reputation. By enforcing strict registration requirements, the court help ensure that franchise business operate within a regulated legal framework. This protects franchise from unfair practice and increase confidence among investors and entrepreneurs who wish to participate in franchise business. The Additionally, the case emphasizes the responsibilities of franchisors. Business owners who want to expand through franchising must ensure that they meet all registration and disclosure requirements before promoting their franchise opportunities. The decision demonstrates that franchise cannot ignore their legal obligations. Instead, they must act responsibly and ensure full compliance with the law before conducting business activities. So, in conclusion, the court decision reinforced the importance of legal compliances, transparency, and corporate responsibility in franchise business. It provides valuable lessons for entrepreneurs by showing that long-term business success depends not only on profitability but also on following the law and maintaining ethical business practice. Thank you.
Good day to Doctor and my fellow friends. My name is Liu Yifei. Now I would like to talk about the lesson for entrepreneurs. First of all, entrepreneurs should conduct proper due diligence before entering any business agreement. They need to verify legal documents, license, and franchise registration before making investment. Second one, business should practice ethics risk management by identifying potential legal and operational risks to avoid financial loss and disputes. Third, protecting business reputation is essential because trust and credibility influence customer, investor, and business partners. Finally, entrepreneurs should seek professional legal advice when making major business decisions. Legal experts can help business comply with regulation and reduce the risk of future legal problems. Overall, this case shows the long-term business success requires not only profit generation but also legal compliance and responsible business conduct. We agree with the court decision for several reasons. First of all, the judgment protects the rights of franchisee. In the case, the plaintiff paid for a franchise opportunity that was not properly registered, which exposed the plaintiff to unnecessary risks. Second one, the decision promotes fairness and accountability because business should be responsible for complying with legal requirements
before offering franchise opportunity. The third one, the judgment encourages business integrity by reminding companies that profit should not come before legal compliance. Finally, the decision strengthens public confidence in the franchise industry and contributes to a more trustworthy business environment. Therefore, we believe that the court decision was fair and beneficial to both the plaintiff and the winner business community. That's all from me. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Doctor. Next, I will present the recommendation and suggestion based on the case of MUNAFYA SDN BHD vs. PROFQUAZ SDN BHD. First, for franchisor, they should make sure that their franchise is properly registered before offering or selling it to others. This is important because fail to register can lead to legal problems and financial losses. Franchisors should also seek legal advice and prepare all important documents before starting any franchisee business. By following the law from the beginning, they can protect their business reputation and avoid future dispute. Second is for franchisee. They should always check whether the franchisor has obtained the required registration before signing any agreement. They should not depend only on advertisement or verbal promise. In addition, franchisees should read and understand all terms and conditions in the franchise agreement carefully. This helps them make informed business decisions and reduce the risk of losses. For existing franchise businesses, it is important to ensure continuous compliance with franchise law and regulation. Businesses should regularly update their legal document and provide training for employees of franchise requirements that should also establish proper checking procedures to make sure that all legal requirements are fulfilled before accepting new franchisee. This action can help reduce legal risk and improve business operation. Finally, there are some general suggestions. The government can organize workshops, seminars, and awareness programs to educate entrepreneurs about franchise law. Educational institutions can also structure business law education so that future entrepreneurs understand the importance of legal compliance. This can help prevent similar cases from happening in the future. In conclusion, both franchisor and franchisee must understand and follow the franchise Act 1998 proper registration, legal compliance, and carefully planning and are important to avoid dispute and ensure long-term business success.
In conclusion, this case shows why legal knowledge is important in business. In this case, PROFQUAZ did not register its franchise under the Franchise Act 1998. Because of this, the court decided in favor of MUNAFYA and ordered PROFQUAZ to refund the money. From this case, we can learn a few important lessons. First, business owners must follow all legal requirements before offering a franchise, and the registration must be completed before signing any agreement. Second, the name of an agreement is not the most important thing. Even if it is called a license agreement, the court will still look at its actual nature. This case also shows that the franchisees are protected by the law. Even the franchisor does not follow the law, the franchisee has the right to end the agreement and ask for the refund. Overall, this case reminds us that the legal knowledge is not only important for lawyers but also for entrepreneurs and business owners. Understanding the law can help business owners to avoid problems and make better decisions. A successful business is not only about making profit, but also about following the law and doing business responsibly. That's all from us. Thank you.